Aston Jansen breaking news. Yes, Aston Jansen did get injured earlier today, but the latest report that just came out 5 seconds ago is saying that this is just a sprained ankle, which means that Aston Jansen should be fine, probably 3 to 5 weeks off. But there's at least 2 weeks that he doesn't have to play coming up. Next week is a game, and after that is a bye week. So there's a chance that he might still make it back for week one. But if not week one, I think by week three, he should make it back. And now back to the main topic of today. Ladies and gentlemen, after the Raiders preseason 2 game, it has become apparent that there are a lot of people on this team who will not make the team in 2026, and some of them do have a lot of skills to contribute. It's just that there are so many talented people on the Raiders squad this year at training camp that by the end of preseason game 3, Raider Nation might be heartbroken by the number of people who are not going to be on this team. So that is the topic of today. Who is on the bubble? Who are the people not likely to make this team, including people who have a lot of skills and a lot to offer the team? Ladies and gentlemen,
Generals win the
I
war,
am the Good Raider.
but the
Welcome to the
politicos, the
Good Raider
politicians make the peace. We have an environment here that when a player leaves here, we can shake hands and say, we won't forget you. You be proud that you wore the patch, you wore the silver and black, and that you played for the greatest organization in professional sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here, Raider Nation. We are back. Today's topic is going to be some of the players that are on the bubble of not making the 2026 Raider squad. That will be the topic of today. However, before that, Raider Nation, we do have to get to some major news here and kind of follow this Ashton Jensen injury. Hopefully, we can get some live updates from this injury. But based on what I know so far, Ashton Jensen seems like he will be fine. But let's get some info from those who do this for a living. Okay, all right, everyone can come down now. Apparently, according to Ian Rappaport, Ashton Jensen, who had to be helped off the practice field today, is believed to have sprained his ankle. Las Vegas are unsure how long he will be out for. Okay, this is really good news considering what the alternative could have been. That he could have added ACL, MCL tear. My goodness, look at this man's neck. That's how I built this boy. Look at those. He's got necks on top of necks, and on top right there is just a tiny little head, just on top of those big old neck right there. This is why he trucks people. This is why you cannot tackle Ashton Jansen. You see those things? They're coming for you. They're monsters. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the obviously the best case scenario for the Raiders. That this would just be a sprained ankle, and he is likely to return pretty soon. So with the sprained ankle, what are we hearing
So
here?
definitely something to pay attention to and watch for.
Let's not get into that. With the sprained ankle, the chances, how long would he be out for? With the sprained ankle, it could be anywhere between 3 weeks to 5 weeks. Generally doesn't go into more than 6 weeks, right? The good news here, of course, is that the season has not even started yet. There's still 3 more weeks before week season game one. This coming week, which of course the game will be on Thursday. That's the third game. Ashton Jensen was not going to play in that game anyways, and then you combine that with the following week, which is a bye week. Ashton Jensen is also not going to be playing, obviously because of a bye week. But the Raiders also play on Sunday. The first game is on Sunday, so an extended time rather than a Thursday game. So between now and then, there is a solid 3 weeks that Ashton Jensen could get better and see if he can start the game, start season week one. And given the type of body that Ashton Jensen is, given how he's built, I wouldn't be surprised if he is able to start week one. But Raider Nation, if he is not able to start week one, is this bad news or is this just more neutral news? Me personally, I think there's enough about the offense that I want to see There's enough good news. There's enough news with the Raiders that I really want to see that. I think even if Ashton Jensen misses a week or two, there's more conversations with the Raiders offense. Um, that Ashton Jensen is the least amount of the worries the Raiders have when it comes to offense. Even if Ashton Jensen is able to only misses a couple of weeks, this is not bad news for the Raiders because again, we need to know what the O line is going to give us. We need to know what the relationship between the O line and the quarterback is going to look like, and most importantly, we need to know what the relationship between the quarterback and the wide receivers are going to be because those are still much bigger areas of weakness for the Raiders rather than Ashton Jensen. Whenever he comes back, we know that Ashton Jensen will be 100% ready to go and he will be ready to rock and roll. So, I see a scenario where honestly having Mike Washington start week 1 or week 2 would be really good just to kind of gauge what that O line is and just to make sure that the things that we've been seeing, the good runs by Mike Washington, are not really a fluke. That the offensive line is back. I actually think that would be a really good way to be able to size up the Raiders offense without somebody like Ashton Jensen because we know the moment Ashton Jensen gets in the game, it will actually just become about Ashton Jensen. So I would love to see what the Raiders have, particularly on the O line and the wide receivers, without the distraction of Ashton Jensen. Now, granted, if Ashton Jensen plays week 1, that's really good, and the hope is that Ashton Jensen can play week 1. All I'm saying is that if he's not able to go week 1, I don't think this is going to be a terrible loss for the Raiders for the first couple of weeks to see how ready the O line and the rest of the offense is to take somebody like an Ashton Jensen, who is a generational talent. Outside of that, I don't think there's any more news in regards to this. Once again, Ashton Jensen was injured earlier today, but he wasn't able to get up by himself. He was helped off his feet, and for some reason, people thought it was a knee injury. Now that you think about it, being helped off your feet actually does sound more like a sprained ankle. So he's gonna get a really really nasty buildup of of his knees, ankles, and then it should be good in a couple of weeks. So that is a report on that. Thank you for watching. Let's see. Any other news before we move on here, real quick? What are this guys talking about? All right, second segment here, as y'all can see. Question with Ashton Jen. Let me turn this down. Sorry. Do I want to hear this? I believe Mendoza does speak on this. This is after the game. Let's kind of see what he has to say here.
Over the course of 4 series, the rookie remains the backup.
I haven't really heard this interview, so let's see what, if anything, important comes from this.
Today in Houston, that is new on SportsCenter.
We go against our defense, which is fantastic, and it's a top defense every single day, and then now be able to go against the Texans defense, which is also a top defense in the league, go against them, be able to get some reps with the ones against the superstars on their defense, and then obviously their twos are fantastic as well. We got so much work, whether it was move the ball, first down, third down, red zone, 2 minute. There's so many situations, and I believe overall it was a positive day. There were plays that I loved and plays that I wish I had back. But in reality, that's a lie. I wish I didn't have him back because it's a growing experience and it's practice.
Of course.
That sound was incredible. McFadden, you're the Raiders reporter. You get to sit there and listen to that. I mean, Mendoza gave you the plays. He gave you all of it with that gusto that he has.
Look, man, Mendoza knows how to give an interview, right? That's that's kind of a thing with the boy. He knows how to give an interview. I wasn't gonna listen to this, but let's see if they have anything interesting to say. Probably gonna be about should we start with Mendoza week 1, because for some reason we all can't seem to stop talking about that. But let's see what this is about.
That, I mean, Mendoza gave you the plays. He gave you all of it with that gusto that he has. Real trustworthy guy. He put up solid numbers. I'm just enamored by the sound he just gave us in the preseason debut, but he admitted there is room for improvement. We know that. He's a rookie. What are the Raiders hoping he cleans up moving forward?
Yeah, Matt. Among the areas that Mendoza needs to improve on are his timing and anticipation.
Okay.
Coach Clint Kubiak also wants Mendoza to focus on the details of each play, even the smallest ones. Coaches have praised Mendoza for being a tireless worker, spending late nights in the facility, going over the offensive script with his teammates, and writing down each pass play in his notebook to critique himself. With more reps, which he's expected to get on Thursday night against the Houston Texans, and the extra work that he puts in, they are confident that.
All right, this is an old one, but not bad there. Not bad. I think.
Nate as a rookie and watch Kirk Cousins play, but the better he plays, the more he forces this conversation. Jeremy, how are the Raiders approaching Mendoza's playing time after his strong first preseason game?
Yeah, Jamie, Fernando Mendoza is earning first-team reps, and the Raiders will probably give him them at.
This is also old.
The Raiders, you know how everybody, the same bad teams, tend to draft at the top of the draft year after year after year? Raiders have been one of those for a long time. But as somebody once told me about the NFL, you don't have to be General Patton. Just don't step on the obvious landmines. It's not advanced calculus. Get the obvious stuff right, and you'll have a winning record and keep your job. So we know what Mendoza is based on his college career. If you give him average talent and average coaching, he's 500. That's what he was at Cal. If you give him elite coaching and good, not Ohio State talent, not Miami talent, good talent, he'll go 16-0. Okay. I'm joking. He's not going to do that in the NFL. But if you give him great coaching, and coaching may be more important to him because he's such a cerebral kid than talent. That was the key to Brady. He needed the coaching. The talent, he could elevate. So the Raiders
That's interesting. Saying that the talent is there, he can elevate the talent. What he needs is the coaching. Okay, so if you need the coaching, then that means we're talking about a stabilizer, right? Because of course he's a quarterback and Clint Kubiak is the coach. We're talking about being also proficient on the field, right? So we're not talking about a case where Fernando Mendoza should be struggling with knowing where to go with the ball, because we got a coach that should be able to do that very, very efficiently. Okay, I'm cool with that. Let's keep running with that. I like it.
so far are doing non-Raider things. They're not stepping on obvious landmines. They hired a sharp offensive coach, kind of young. They found the best free agent offensive lineman in the draft, Tyler Linderbaum. And they brought in a veteran, experienced adult, Kirk Cousins, to guide him.
Yeah.
Again, it's not complicated. Guaranteeing, like Cleveland did, Deshaun Watson's massive long contract is absolutely stupendously idiotic. Just don't step on the landmine. Find your quarterback. Get him a coach, preferably young and offensive. Shore up the offensive line. That's what McVay did when he took over the Rams, got Andrew Whitworth. Sean Payton, first thing he did wasn't get a quarterback. It took him a year to get Bo Nix. He got that offensive line into a top 10 unit.
Yeah.
That's what Ben Johnson did in Chicago. Make the offensive line better.
Okay.
So it's not that complicated. The Raiders also added, I thought, Mike Washington, fourth-round running back out of Arkansas, could end up being the best fourth-round pick. I think he's really good. They went and got Naylor, the wide receiver, unheralded from Minnesota. So, again, it's a little like life.
Yet,
sleep, diet, and move. Sleep, diet, exercise, activity. It doesn't guarantee you're going to live to be 80. but it increases the probability
right.
you will live to be late 70s or early 80s.
Sure. Yeah.
And I've got it.
Scientifically speaking, yes, of course. I mean, we can't deny that claim, right? You know.
Tell you, this Raiders organization has been closer to Cleveland than the Chiefs over the last 20 years. But I like everything they've done with Mendoza. From Kirk Cousins, the offensive coach, Tyler Linderbaum, double down on running backs and wide receivers in the draft or free agency.
Okay.
And they got a little lucky. I mean, Brock Bowers already in-house. Ashton Genty already in-house. So some of this stuff just feels like, oh, we got some momentum here. This is interesting here. Yes, the division's tough. It doesn't matter. The Seahawks won the Super Bowl in arguably the toughest division. That stuff's overrated. This is not college football.
Ah, okay. Good there. I don't see any room to disagree with that. Okay, let's check some notes out about practice today, even though Ashton Genty did go out. But other notes from the practice, Mike Washington took more carries after Ashton Genty left practice. Kirk Cousins took our first team reps, and Fernando took our second. Okay, Mendoza threw 2 interceptions, one to Sky Masters, jumped in zone on a crosser to Chris Myerick, and another was tipped at his release, letting Greedy Vance pick the ball off. Okay, Trading Stooks took the majority of first reps at safety along with Jeremy Chin, as I meant. Isaiah Palomar ran mostly with the 2. This battle actually here is pretty consistent. This is exactly what I expect to happen here. That Trading Stooks will be the free safety majority, and that Jeremy Chin will be the strong safety, and Isaiah Palomar would be the second strong safety, who that will also come in on a lot of plays with Jeremy Chin to play in the box. I think that was pretty standard. Jackson Powers Johnson and Caleb Rogers rotated at right guard with JPJ back at practice. So this is good news. JPJ is back at practice, right? And him and Caleb Rogers are switching off, of course, like we thought they would. Dalton Johnson and Greedy Vance rotate at nickel with the 2s because Taron Johnson is playing nickel with the 1s, right? Greedy Vance rotating as nickel with the 2s. This is really good news because I do believe Greedy Vance is going to make this team because he is going to prove invaluable in the slot there with Taron Johnson. And then Dalton Johnson, of course, being able to put the nickel as well because in the first season, maybe the first couple seasons, in fact, I think Jeremy Chin should be able to start there as strong safety. So I don't think Dalton Johnson is going to get much first team rep during the regular season. So if he's able to play and rotate out slot and does it well, that should be really good for him. Trey Zune the third worked at center with Mendoza and 2s. Okay, that's another thing we've seen him do a few times. I do wonder if that means that we're not as secure on Jordan Meredith as we would like, but also Jordan Meredith is a really good, not really good, but a workable backup guard. So that might be a reason there. Mendoza had a pair of goal ball touchdowns to Trey Tucker and Albert. Nope, not going to try and say that. Max Crosby got pressure consistently and was effective in the run game. Okay. Yeah, expected that. Fatukasi got some reps in. Oh, really? Fatukasi got some reps. That's defense, right? Fatukasi is the, I believe he is the defensive tackle, perhaps. Okay. Everybody's focused on the Ashton Genty update, and there really isn't anything. But okay, I guess everyone wants to focus exclusively on it, but there really isn't anything. Sprained ankle, not that big of a deal. We can obviously move on from that. Okay. Okay, here's what we're going to do now. Let's move on to the main topics of tonight, actually. After the Raiders' second preseason game, there are a few players that I believe are naturally on the edge of not making this team. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I got about 5 players that may not make this team for one reason or another. But the thing to keep in mind here is all of these guys are not bad. In fact, some of them are quite workable. It's just that given the circumstances of how many players that we have in those positions, they may not make the team. And of course, we're going to start, of course, with the number one person here who might not make this team, but honestly has every right to make the team. It's just that, again, circumstantially, Aiden O'Connell may not make this 53-man roster. But in the case of Aiden O'Connell, we are actually talking about a possible trade candidate to another team. Try and center this because I do believe Aiden O'Connell will very much love to get a chance to play with another team and to possibly start compete for a starting position. The problem is though that because of Cousins, who is going to start, and because of Mendoza, who is going to be the future, Aiden O'Connell may be the odd man out. Aiden O'Connell is the odd man out. The question for the Raiders when it comes to Aiden O'Connell is a simple one. Do we trade him now or do we trade him later? Or do we wait to the end of the season and then let him walk? Now, most Raider Nation, of course, will say, no, don't let him walk. Get something back from him. Why would you not get something back from him? But however, I don't think it's as simple as that. Just because we want something back from him, even a sixth, doesn't mean that other teams are going to be willing to offer that up. Because yes, Aiden O'Connell might be a good backup. The question is though, who is going to need a good backup enough to want to give up a sixth round to get one if he can just wait to the end of the season and wait for him to hit free agency and then at that point go pick him up. So even though Aiden O'Connell is the odd man out on this team, he is a particularly weird case because he may be the odd man out but still remain on the team because of the position, namely the Raiders might end up keeping 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster. That's rare, right? And again, this is the reason why he might end up getting traded before the beginning of the season because we might actually need that last slot for somebody in a skill position. There are certain areas of the field, such as safeties, where safeties and cornerback, where maybe you want to keep an extra person and not have Aiden O'Connell eat up that extra space. Because even if Aiden O'Connell is on this team, we know that he's not the first go-to, and we know that he's not the second go-to. He would only be in the game if both Cousins and Mendoza are injured, and that's kind of just a terrible case scenario for the Raiders. Where if that becomes the case, you may be better off just going out and finding somebody else, right, and keeping somebody in house just in case, right. The other issue with Aiden O'Connell is this: that he is talented enough that if you release him now, somebody's going to pick him up. So he's not going to end up on a practice squad. There really is no way here for the Raiders to do this other than to say, look, we're going to keep him for 1 year and then let him go, or keep him for 1 year and hope by the end of the trade deadline, somebody will come calling for Aiden O'Connell, or we're just going to go ahead and have to wait to the end of the season to release him and have somebody else pick him up. But no matter what the case may be, it doesn't seem like Aiden O'Connell is going to make the 53-man roster, even if he is technically on the 53-man roster. He would only be there to serve as a backup. The next player here on our list is somebody who's been on the team for a year and has had some success. But I keep saying, and I'll keep saying this, that we're just not seeing enough of Dante Thornton, which is making me feel like I'm not understanding what's happening here because he's not practicing. He's also not playing. Now, the thing with Dante Thornton is this. It is also a bit of an interesting scenario because Dante Thornton is kind of one of the only people in the NFL who has his particular stature with his particular athleticism. Dante Thornton is a 6'5" wide receiver who can run a 4.3 something, probably more like a 4.35, but any moment anyone who's 6'5" and runs a 4.3 anything is in the game, that kind of is a big deal because those guys are pretty rare. Right now, I believe the tallest receiver is Tay Higgins at around 6'4", 6'5", or maybe Drake London or Kyle Pitts, who's a tight end, but So the reason I'm saying that is the Raiders, if the Raiders release Dante Thornton, he's going to be picked up by another team pretty quickly, and I don't think it's going to last any more than a day in the open markets before somebody picks him up from us releasing him, so that he would not be able to go back to our practice squad. Dante Thornton also went to school in Tennessee, so you can obviously see that maybe he would prefer to go to a team in the southern parts of the states, such as maybe the Tennessee Titans, who, yeah, honestly could use a big long receiver for their quarterback for his development. But again, the question is, can the Raiders also use a 6'5" person who can run a 4.3? Even if you haven't seen him in action this year, there is enough tape on Dante Thornton from last year to suggest that, okay, he doesn't look off when he gets on the football field. Yes, he actually looks like he belongs on the football field. The catch with him is he's progressing enough to satisfy giving him a roster slot, even though that means that he may not play very much this year at all. Are you still willing to give him a roster slot that perhaps in a year's time, maybe it puts on a bit more muscle, has a little more time with this playbook, that somebody like him would emerge? Because as I said before, if we release Dante Thornton, he will not remain long on the open field. Somebody is going to pick him up off the wire as soon as they are able to. And a part of me now also does wonder that maybe Dante Thornton does want to that scenario so he can go and be with a team that, again, he grew up in the South. He probably maybe wants to play for like a team like Tennessee or maybe even Dallas. Again, remember, Dallas is kind of always looking for some kind of advantage when it comes to speed. They have CeeDee Lamb and they also have Judge Perkins. Obviously, someone like Dante Thornton may not really be a bad idea for their team. So be on the lookout for several teams who would love to pick up Dante Thornton if the Raiders drop him. So back to the point that I've made, that it's going to be really hard for the Raiders to drop him, simply because we're not going to get him back if we do. The question is, even though he hasn't practiced much and he hasn't been on the field and we haven't seen him, maybe we'll see him in the third preseason game. Do the Raiders want to take a chance and just hold on to him for another year, knowing that if they let him go, they won't be able to get him back? And that's the question with Dante Thornton. And I think that is a good place to leave that there. Personally, I think he is pretty badly on the bubble. Would I like to keep him? I don't know yet. I want to see a little bit more. I think as we get closer to week 1, if he's still on the team, I might kind of, after the third game of preseason, if he doesn't show up at all, I might make a decision on that. But again, 6'5", 4'3" something is rare in the NFL, and somebody is going to want that because somebody is going to say, yes, I can do something with that. The question is, can Kubiak do something with that? Because if he can, then there's a chance that he will make the team just based on that alone. The next person here is the person who's just kind of been disappointing me and Raider Nation for a minute, just because he does have other measurables, but just has never really been able to put it together. As a matter of fact, that when I was looking for clips for him, the best clips that I can find for Dikemian Richardson is honestly his college tape, because outside of that, Dikemian Richardson has just not really been what the Raiders would like him to be. He kind of hasn't really lived up to expectation, namely because he just hasn't played. He hasn't been on the field. He played last game, and apparently he did play a little better last game. But this is the thing with Dikemian Richardson: is it too late? He didn't play the first preseason game. He did have a good reason, but Greedy Vance kind of took that opportunity to put himself up in the on the first team guys, and I do believe Greedy Vance is going to make this team on the basis of him just being a good slot receiver. So again, the question goes back to, hey, are you able Dikembe Richardson to finally live up to what we think you can, or is it kind of too late for you for the Raiders? Because Dikembe Richardson is another player. If the Raiders drop him and put him on the wire, he's not going to come back to our practice squad because, for one, he was a fourth-round pick, so somebody out there knows that he's got some talent that they can use, right? Also, Dikembe Richardson is 6'1". I believe he's 6'2". In fact, he's long, he's athletic. He just has all the measurables. The only thing he doesn't seem to have is just playing on the field. I don't know what you want to call that, but whatever the case may be, he just doesn't get on the field as much as you would expect somebody like him to get on the field. Because I do believe that if Dikembe Richardson is able to get on the field more, we might start to see something. But after 3 years of having him on our team and really not emerging as anything with no fourth-year option, we might just go ahead and release him now to save space for somebody else making this 53, rather than trying to hold on to Dikembe Richardson and kind of seeing if he'll be able to provide us anything come regular season. At this point, I just don't have the faith that he would be able to do that. So for me, I don't see Dikembe Richardson making this team. I think there's another option, a better option for somebody that I think I would love to see in that position. And that person I'm actually going to say is going to be Greedy Vance. Unlike Dikembe Richardson, Greedy Vance has kind of shown up whenever he's got an opportunity. Now, has he gotten a ton of opportunity? No, he hasn't. And hence the reason why what I have on him is also his college tape from UNC. But Greedy Vance is young enough that, yes, he could. It is still enough time for him to make a good NFL career. The downside with Greedy Vance is that he's on the smaller side, being 5'8", and I believe 177 pounds. So he's on the smaller side. However, with Rob Leonard's nickel defense, and yes, Leonard, after 2 games, all I see consistently from Rob Leonard is a nickel, 4-2 nickel. So I'm going to assume that's going to be a primary base defense that we're going to run a lot of things from that nickel position, which does mean that somebody like Greedy Vance does become quite valuable, somebody who's got a smaller size to be able to play in the slot, but also has enough tenacity to come down and put a lick on somebody, or at least make a tackle. And this is where somebody like Greedy Vance is going to just surpass Dikembe Richardson, because 1, Greedy Vance is on the field. 2, Greedy Vance is on the practice field. Greedy Vance hasn't gotten injured, which is the only thing that would derail somebody like Greedy Vance, because somebody like him, with his stature, if you were to incur an injury, that would be enough of an excuse for a team to let him go. But as it were, Greedy Vance is not getting injured. When he gets on the field, he is showing up as somebody who is able to play. So he is the reason why I do not believe Dikembe Richardson will make the team. However, as I said before, Dikembe Richardson has more potential upsides. He's bigger, he's faster, he just looks more like a prototypical corner. So maybe in his 3rd year, going into his 4th year, Dikembe Richardson will figure it out if coaches want to take a chance on that. However, if coaches are not willing to take a chance on that, then somebody like a Greedy Vance would prove to be a much better fit for this Raiders team, because he will bring something to the team right away, both in the slot and with his ability and tenacity to go downfield and make a tackle when necessary. Okay, couple more here that I think are going to be on the bubble. Actually, in fact, I only really have one more, because when it comes to linebacker, a part of me thinks that Tommy Eichenberg might be kind of getting pushed down a bit. This season, the 2 biggest names to that we will to why. This one's just messed up, right? It's just a messed up video. Of course. Okay. That's a messed up video, so we're gonna skip that. The one position that I've been looking at the most this off season, this preseason, has been the linebacker position, because again, we are running a 4-2 nickel, which does mean that Nicole Bedina and Quay Walker will obviously automatically get those two positions because they are the better of our linebacker core. But after them, there were two people that we were looking into to potentially be the backups because they've been on the team longer, and that's Cody Lindenberg and Tommy Eichenberg. In the past preseason games, it does seem like Cody Lindenberg is the one that's kind of shining. Cody Lindenberg is 55, and Tommy Eichenberg is number 44. Now, if you were to ask me, I still think the Raiders want to keep both players because as far as linebacker goes, they are going to be our best backups. I believe the only other person to look out for is Shegun. I forgot his last name. Shegun Olu something. Shegun Olu. Um, that's the other person to look for because he is proven to be a really good gunner, hence really useful when it comes to special teams. So for Tommy Eichenberg, it's going to be a little bit particular because I'm not seeing the results that I need. He came out of Ohio State, and when you see him in his Ohio State clip, which I do have recorded, I just not able to pull up the correct one right now. Oh, as a matter of fact, let me just see if I can search for it right now as we wait. Because when you see
This is
the
an
way
old
he
one,
plays,
but not.
when you see the way he plays, you can definitely see that he does have some talent that would fit very much very well as an NFL middle linebacker, which of course that's what he's going to be. But for some reason, I do not see enough to suggest that he is somebody that we're going to try and
Here
build a team on. So that's kind of my struggle with Tommy right now. If you ask me which of the two would I like to keep, Tommy or Cody, I actually personally would love to keep both of them. It just does not seem like keeping both of them is going to be an option. So for that reason, let me see if I can still find his clip here. For that reason, I am actually not necessarily opposed to dropping Tommy. But I'm also quite certain that Tommy Eichenberg is the type of player that the moment you drop him, somebody else is going to very much pick him up and add him to their team. So we will not be able to get him back on the practice squad. A couple other names that I have here is Jonah Laulu. This is a defensive tackle who just hasn't really shined at all. It did show a little bit of something in the last preseason game, but I don't think it's going to be enough. So I don't think Jonah Laulu is going to make this team. One that's gonna be a bit of a bummer, but I also don't think he'll make the team. Is going to be Cedric Jackson, namely because his job on the special teams as a returner is also currently is going to be taken over by somebody like a Malik Benson because Malik Benson will make the team, and not only that, Malik Benson is going to try to be a future wide receiver, receiver for the Raiders, and Cedric Jackson just has been on the team longer and just hasn't really emerged outside of the punt returning. So with somebody like Malik Benson and even Jamal McCoy doing the punt return and even Trey Tucker, I think someone like Jackson is just basically going to be pushed out simply because there is no spot for him to fit with this team, which would be a bummer because he does come in clutch when he needs to. It's just there's not enough opportunities for him to get on the field to try and come in clutch. So I can very much see him not making the team just to make sure we don't take up a roster slot for somebody who is more future who's more future necessary for the Raiders, like a Malik Benson or Jamal McCoy. So that's all I got on that. If you have any names that you think I'm missing that will not make this team, let me know. I will release a 53-man roster. I don't want to do it ad nauseum. I'm gonna wait to see when the best time to do it. Maybe right before the third preseason game, maybe right after the third preseason game. But I don't think it'll be necessary right now. There's still plenty of competition to be had. But these are the names of people that I believe are not likely to make this team. That would be quite sad to see. Oh, I forgot one name. Patrick Johnson. As a matter of fact, I had him highlighted. Patrick Johnson is the other name. He has been playing well, but again, this is a case of Raiders having just too many people that he may not make the team. But I'll put that there as an extra because there's a chance that he actually does make the team. Okay. I'm probably gonna end there because it does seem like Raider Nation is not popping for streamers right now. Oh, there's a couple of names that are just a bit bigger than my name and are taking up the air. There are a couple of guys. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's gonna be the end of this then. For anybody who was here, even in the shadows, thanks for watching, and we will see you again soon.